opinions on what my husband and I should do, please. I've never put anything on Reddit before, so please bear with me. My husband and I met July 2023. We spent every day that he wasn't working together and went from dating to engaged to married in less than a year. Now, the issue here isn't with our marriage or relationship. He truly is my best friend, and I've never felt more comfortable around someone. I fall in love with him more and more every day. So now that you know that's not the problem, here we go. I apologize for how scattered this might be, but there's so much that I'm trying to fit into here to paint the full picture. When I first met his parents, I thought they were really nice people. They seemed down to earth and very welcoming. When we started talking about marriage, I asked him many questions, like if he would be willing to move if I was unhappy in his hometown, and just more basic things that I would need to know. I had never heard him say anything bad about his parents, so I flat out asked him what. We then went down this rabbit hole of talking about our childhoods and things that we had been through, and came to the conclusion that neither of us wanted to be like our parents when we had kids. I don't want to get too into detail. He doesn't see it, but from what he's told me, his dad was verbally abusive, saying things like, "You've been my biggest competition since you were born." And what his dad meant by that was he felt that his son was competition when it came to getting attention from his own wife. I was so taken back when he told me this. It was hard for me to see that because I had not seen that side of his dad. I always noticed that whenever the four of us were together and they were talking about his childhood, that my husband seemed distant and unamused. And when we were dating, I assumed it was because he was nervous. But as time went on, I realized that wasn't the case. His mom wasn't aware of everything that happened, but she saw a lot of it. His dad has apparently always had a short fuse, at one point, even threatening to kick my husband's mom out over something that wasn't even her fault. He always thinks he's right and that things should be done his way. Now, I would like to mention that I am a Christian and my husband was raised Christian. I grew up non-denominational and on a farm, so I am not one for appearances, trying to look perfect all the time or trying to be someone I'm not. My husband grew up in a range from Methodist all the way up to Reformed Presbyterian. His parents are very much about always looking your best, looking neat and always put together. Now, my dad raised me not to be walked on. I do believe as a Christian that my husband is the leader of our home, but that doesn't mean he gets to mistreat me or talk down to me, obviously. Biblically, we are equal in God's eyes. Thankfully, my husband understands this and has always treated me with respect. Now, even though his father claims to be a Christian, it's obvious that he doesn't hold women in the same regard as he does men. His whole life, he has mainly been friends with women and often makes very stereotypical jokes. You'll see why this is important later on. So let's set the scene. It's October, and my husband and I are planning our wedding. His parents tell us that they regretted taking so many suggestions from people when they got married because they feel like their wedding day got turned into what others wanted versus what they wanted. They said as long as we were happy, they were happy. So, like I said, his parents are fancier, whereas I am more laid back and reserved. Since this was her only son, I figured I would let his mom take control of most of the decorating because I know she likes that. Um, Unfortunately, this is just where the problems start. So, my husband has had the same bank account for years. When he first opened it, he wasn't old enough to be on it by himself, so his mom got on there with him. For the past several years, it's been convenient for her to move money out of his account to pay towards his portion of the bills. She's also has a card connected to that account. Um, but then she started ordering hundreds of dollars worth of stuff almost daily to go towards the wedding. She even used his money to buy them new clothes to wear to the wedding. I would like to note here that his parents have made some pretty unsmart financial decisions with money and they continue to do so. So they barely have money in their bank account. My husband didn't really say anything until there was a couple $1,000s gone. Um, they then just reassured him that this was part of it and weddings were expensive. So we look past. So, anyways, I let her have liberty over 90% of the designing and decorating and only made a few requests. The first thing that made the wedding situation feel wrong was I mentioned the fact that I like silver versus gold. She said she thought gold was more classy. It seemed like she respected my preference though, and that's what we were going with. But imagine my surprise when the stuff that comes in the mail is all gold. That then gave me the eerie feeling that she was almost trying to plan the wedding that she never had. But I convinced myself I was reaching. If that wasn't bad enough, we had said so many times we wanted to keep it small. His parents ended up inviting 60 plus people that they were friends with that my husband didn't even know well. And the last straw for me was when I told him that my family would have to make a 4+ hour drive and we would need to have it earlier in the day so that they could come up early and make it back home without having to have a hotel room. I told his mom the time and everything, but when typing up the invitations, she changed the time to what they had recommended, which was 6 p.m. And I did not know this until they had been sent out. And I received many text messages from my family congratulating me, but telling me that was too late for them to make it. I was so upset. They had mentioned that they wanted to do 6 p.m. so their friends, all local, could come without having to take a day off work, while having no consideration for the fact that all of my friends and family would have to not only get that day off, but also get hotel rooms or would not even be able to come. Um, but I plainly told them that wouldn't work. We were honeymooning over 5 hours away from our home. So I initially wanted to do it between 10 and 12 and had compromised to do it around 2 at the latest. Now, invitations were sent out 2 months in advance so people could go ahead and make arrangements to be. But after the whole incident with the invitations, my husband and I talked and we had already spent a ridiculous amount of money and we weren't even halfway through all of this stuff that they said we needed. So, after some serious consideration, we just decided to elope. Initially, I just wanted it to be the two of us, but at the end of the day, I recognize the fact that they are his parents and that he is their only son. So, I told him, I know they are your parents, and I understand if you want them there. They acted like they completely understood about us wanting to elope and said that they would support us no matter what. Now, this is where the wrench was thrown in our relationship. They had this friend come down from another country. Let's call her Amy. So Amy seemed decently nice. I figured that she was kind of awkward because we didn't really have many interactions. From what I understand, Amy is one of his dad's oldest female friends. I hadn't taken Amy into account when it came to our elopement because she wasn't invited and she's not family. Uh, when my husband decided that he wanted his parents there, we specifically said that we would like the two of them to come if they wanted. They Amy came down about 1 month before our elopement. My husband's dad then casually mentioned to him how excited and eager the three of them are. I'm not sure if his dad specifically invited Amy or just figured that she should come since she was down here staying with them. But I had a major problem with that. I had felt like what I wanted had been ran over since the very beginning, and I wasn't willing to budge over this. And as I stated earlier, I don't have parents, but I do have family and friends who love me. I decided not to have anyone there because I wanted to keep it small and intimate and not hurt feelings. At the end of the day, my dad would have been there if he were alive. So I don't feel that your parents count as favored guests. My husband brought the news back to me that his dad was planning on Amy attending our elopement. And this immediately was an issue for me because I was not going to explain to my friends and family why I let this total stranger show up but didn't invite any of them. This really started to show the blatant disrespect and disregard from his father. I know he was used to walking over the two of them, but he was not going to do that to me, and he was not going to do that to my husband anymore. If I had anything to say about it. My husband was upset about this too and very hurt. I encouraged him to say something to his dad, and I didn't understand when he started looking for alternative options. I knew about some of the past confrontations he had with him, so I didn't want to push him into a bad place. You might be thinking, why didn't he just uninvite them? But my husband issues a lot deeper than I think he realizes. He's so desperate to keep the peace and be a good son because of the environment he grew up in. My husband and I have many discussions about what we should say and how we should bring it up. He very politely told his mom that we would like to have a conversation with them without Amy. So they step outside to talk to us, and I can see the anger on his dad's face as my husband starts talking. His dad then starts making very nasty remarks, and his main argument was Amy gave you a nice gift, so the least you could do is let her come. I had my eyes on my husband for the majority of the time. Since they were his parents, I wanted to let him do the talking. But when I could see the defeat on his face and he was constantly getting talked over, that is when I decided to step in. And I told his dad, we appreciated the gift, but that if that was the problem, she could have it back. Literally, almost everyone gave us a nice gift, most nicer than hers. His dad seemed very surprised when I started standing up for us. He then says, so what are you going to do if we're not willing to come without her? And then I repeated, we're not threatening to do anything, but we only want the two of you. He then chuckles and is like, oh, so then if we don't come without her, we're not invited. I knew he got my point and was just trying to be a jerk. He then turns away and says, then you better just not plan on having us there. It was hard for me to understand the emotions that we were probably going through my husband's minds, but I could tell that he was obviously hurt. So we come over to our place, and then a few minutes later, we knock on the door. I open the door. His dad is standing right there, and his mom's mom right beside him. I don't know. I don't explain it. She looks so innocent and apologetic, but never said anything in our defense. I personally think from stories he's told me that she's scared of standing up to what he says, even if she doesn't agree. But basically, his dad starts in and says, "Understand why you're being so selfish. As Christians, we have a duty to make people feel welcome." And that's when I told him that we were allowed to have preferences. And not only was it her being there that would have been a problem, that it was the whole principle of him assuming that he could just invite her without saying anything to us and that it was going to fly. That's when he turns to my husband and goes, if you let her start wearing the pants now, then she's always going to wear them. She's obviously trying to control you, man up. And I break down into tears at this point because my husband was so stuck in shock of what was being said that he didn't say anything back. And I felt like no one was taking up for me. And then I kind of end by saying, this is our time, our life, and our marriage, and you doesn't get to control us. And this man goes, just because your family's messed up doesn't mean we want ours that way. And also threatens to make us leave here and find somewhere else to go. This really hurt because I had been very open with them about my family, why most of my family isn't blood, and the abuse that I went through. They then sent us a text saying that Amy is very hurt that we don't want her there. She wants her gift back, and he thinks it would be best if we didn't see her for the rest of her stay. So since she was staying with him, they were also ignoring us. His dad apparently called him at work a couple days later and talks to him about everything that happened, apologized to my husband for what he said to him specifically, and told him that he didn't want to make him feel like he didn't have a place here to live. Then send a group text between the four of us and says that our relationship is fine and that we just need to move forward. This man never on once apologized to me. So the wedding happens, everything goes surprisingly smooth. We get back home, many months have passed, and as much as I try and let it go, I can't. I don't hate him. I'm still very polite in passing, but I have not made the attempt to seek them out for a conversation like I used to. Also, what is happening right now that has me a little worried is my husband's mom is still on his account and can move money as she needs. He has asked her several times for an itemized list of his bill so he can see what his expenses are, and she hasn't given him one. I'm afraid he's being overcharged. We buy our own groceries and stuff, so the money he's giving her is towards the family phone plan, water, electric, and the Wi Fi. And we are trying to save money so that we can have a future. And I'm afraid they're using him as a stable cash flow to make up for their misspending. I believe the money is more on his mom than his dad, but he's afraid that if he takes her off his account, that will create another fight like we had back then, and he doesn't want another one of those. I told him that he should just tell her that we're wanting to be on there alone together, and that if she would send him an itemized bill, then he would just write her a check every month. He's scared that if he does that, she'll say something to his dad and there will be another big fight like there was. And honestly, I see where he's coming from. He said his whole life that his dad usually has about 2 really big fits a year, so he expects another one before too long over something. And lastly, I'm not sure if his dad/parents will respect me more over time. I'm afraid that the blatant disrespect and disregard for our wishes might follow us into the future with them, as well as when we have kids. With our setup, we can't go anywhere else right now, but we definitely won't be here for more than a few years. I'm sorry this was so long, but I felt like the whole story had to be known to make sense of what happened and the potential of how it could go with this. And honestly, it was kind of therapeutic to get all of this out. So, what do you think we should do? How do we handle this? Story two, my friend's boyfriend is an AI. What am I supposed to do? TLDR, my friend talks to an AI chatbot and is referencing to it as her long distance boyfriend, which I'm mentioning it's an AI. Advices, my friend, whom I'll call Lily, likes to go on an AI chatbot app where you can make stories and such. I wouldn't think it's super weird, TBH, but RN, it's getting concerning. We're in our last year of HS, and as far as I know, Lily's always been single and she has those very K-drama standards. In art class, she usually talks about everything she and the bot talk about to her friend for hours. She's not doing anything else while talking. She's not role playing or making up a story. She's acting as if it was real, putting her IRL friends into the chat. At this point, it's weird, but not that bad. Like it's her Secret Garden or YTVIG. However, she also started talking about her long distance boyfriend to others. During a talk where another friend shared stories about her boyfriend, Lily doubled down talking about her own. She never mentioned it in the conversations, but I know this BF is the AI chatbot made me deeply uncomfortable as the talk wasn't just about romantic relationship, which already was weird AF, but also intimacy shared. Lily was telling my friend with an actual boyfriend about her intercourse with her boyfriend, who, may I remind you, is not real. I am also pretty sure it's an AI based on someone who actually exists, probably a K-pop idol. Parasocial is a thing, but this is just terrifying. It weirds me out, but I never said anything because it would shame her to death. I also think she believes I'm in some sort of competition with her, and this would be my way to sabotage her. Um, Her friends also talk to AI chatbot and share their own stories, so I guess she feels like she's the OG and needs to hold status or something. Um, None of her friends is making a move to reference the characters as AI, treating them like humans. And I think it's getting them deeper into that rabbit hole. What makes me write about this is because there was a huge problem, FTT, who was dependent on a chatbot and unfortunately ended their life when it got deleted. I don't think she's to that level, but I worry, can I do something? Story 3, AITA for going through my husband's phone. AIA for going through my husband's phone after suspicion of him cheating. I, 23F, went through my husband 23M phone after I had suspicion of him cheating. For context, we are long distance due to him being in the military. I was able to log into his email, which I was looking for Tinder verifications since he had been caught on Tinder previously. While going through his email, I found emails from Reddit, which included his Reddit username. When I looked up his Reddit account, I was disgusted and horrified. His entire Reddit was him running a group to share and spread nudes of girls in our hometown in a Discord. Turns out he had been doing this for months, beginning the first day we had gone long distance. I went down the rabbit hole, and turns out there had been multiple different channels on Discord for different cities in our area. He also made sure he got the girls' Instagrams to verify their age before people joined the Discord and leaked the girls' nudes. I also found out he was also on Tinder multiple times throughout our relationship, including 10 days after we got married. When I saw him again in person, he deleted Reddit and Discord off his phone, but had been logging in on Safari while we were together to look at the nudes. And when I confronted him, he just kept saying it was my fault for going through his phone. And I, the weird one, he said, I just need to get over it because it's not a big deal. And oh well, who cares that he was asking guys to send girls nudes without their consent? It's just porn. And he needed variety since he was bored of me, and I didn't send him enough, so he had no other choice. He has continually said it was my fault, and I'm weird for going through his phone, and I need to just get over it. He keeps blaming me and flipping it on me and has repeatedly said he wishes I die and am a bitch for not forgiving him. He keeps saying I need to be there for him because he's so depressed because of what he did. After distancing myself from him because I cannot deal with what he did, he says, I'm the bad guy and he needs space away from me so he can decide if he even wants to be with me. After I stopped doing everything he demanded of me, essentially flipping everything on me. And so, am I truly the asshole for finding out the truth and not tolerating it? Story 4, IATA for getting a tattoo my boyfriend doesn't like. My tattooist put up a flash sheet on her social of um, animals with wings that don't usually fly. And one of them was the sweetest bunny with fairy wings. Whilst I appreciate this won't be to everyone's taste, I have a pet bunny and have always wanted a tattoo of a bunny, and I instantly fell in love with the whimsical style. For reference, I already have around 35 tattoos, including some really crappy ones that I have done myself, and my boyfriend has never mentioned not liking my tattoos or tattoos in general previously. I had a tattoo voucher for my tattooist to be used. So, booked in to get the whimsical bunny in a few weeks' time and told my boyfriend. He voiced that he wasn't a fan of it, but nothing was really said beyond that. Fast forward to the day of the tattoo, he is flying back from a holiday in Spain and called me and asked what I was doing today. So I told him that today was the day I am booked in for that tattoo and wished him a safe flight. He said he was going to go and put the phone down abruptly, then messaged me saying he can't believe I'm getting the tattoo. I told him that I love it and I'm really excited for it. And his response was, "Clearly, you don't take my opinion into consideration, so why bother?" I responded, trying to explain that I've always wanted a bunny tattoo, that I'm so excited that I would never try to control what he does/does not put on his body, and that even if I wasn't a fan of something, I would still love and support him regardless. I even said that I wouldn't get any more after this one, and that hopefully that shows my love and commitment for him, as I absolutely love tattoos. He just said that he couldn't be arsed with a long message and would talk to me later. I'm not sure if he was generally Marty anyway, because he was catching a flight on little sleep. I need to know, at Ta, should I not get the tattoo? We've been together for around 4 months. I got the tattoo and I love it. We'll deal with the boyfriend later. Story 5, cat has moved into my yard, will not let me approach them. Hey y'all, I have this cat who has been wandering around our property for a year or so. Over the last few weeks, it has started being incredibly vocal. It will sleep under our cars, and we have an old car seat on our porch that it has gravitated to in the colder weather over the last year. It ran off whenever it saw us. My husband put out food for her. I think it's a her anyway. And now she comes back every morning and evening. I'm fairly certain she's sleeping under our porch for the most part and will hide in stacks of wood around the property too. Here's my thing. She will not let us anywhere near her. If we put out food, she waits for us to go back inside before she'll eat. If we come out while she's eating, she'll run back under the stairs. If I meow when I go outside, though, she will meow back repeatedly and come towards the porch, but actively keeps her distance. I don't think we've ever gotten within 10 feet without her getting spooked and running off and slash or hiding. I sat in the living room for last week and had the door cracked. She sat on the other side of the door, munching and meowing, and I was just curious to see if she wanted to come inside at all. She doesn't seem interested. Is there anything I can do to get this little one to trust me? She's meowing so much that I feel like she needs something other than food and water, and I have no clue what. She doesn't want to come inside. She doesn't want me to come near her. She and my own cat seem to have no interest in one another. They ignore each other through the windows/doors, and I genuinely have no clue what to do at this point. And my husband doesn't want her in the house because A, we have a rabbit and we never know how another animal will react to him. And B, the outdoor cat seems to have a friend that's a raccoon. We found them sharing dinner one night and they went under the porch together. This is my first experience with an outdoor cat, TBH, and I'm lost about how to help, or even if they need help. Guidance is much appreciated. Story 6, AITA for Ruin This Man Family Dream. When I was 19, I had a fantasy and I went through with it. I wanted to sell my body, so I did it. I was in college and went online, found a cute guy, and the next day we met. He was so handsome, full of charm, and at his peak, he was 36 at the time, divorced with 3 kids. We hit it off really well and did what we agreed to do. At the end, I was on the train going home, and all of a sudden, I got a text message from him saying that I smelled like temptation and wanted to meet again. The second time we met was actually a first date, not paid. He never paid me again. We went to the cinema, and after that, we fucked like rabbits all night. I fell in love with him. A month goes by, and he finally replies. I was beginning to overthink what went wrong. He said it was fun for him and wanted to meet again. For 3 years, he sent a message time to time, always more than 3 months apart. If I was available and ready to go, we had sex. If not, I never knew if I would ever see him again. And every time I wanted to meet with him, he ghosted me. That was absolute torture. Every time we met, it was like a drop of water in the desert, enough to keep me alive, enough to keep me believing that one day this man could love me back. I wanted him so bad, but I was never able to get what I wanted. There were 2 occasions that I've tried to end it all, but he always comes back. One day, I was on Instagram just to pass the time and found a picture of him and another woman. Came to find out they were engaged. And, oh god, my heart stopped. Younger me didn't know that when you ghost someone is because you found someone better. I was naive at the time. Tried to call him, but as usual, he didn't answer, so I DM'd her, send her a few pics of ours. She had no idea. This guy fools us both. Then he called me furious, obviously. Ended up badly, really bad, and then blocked me. She was also incredibly rude to me. I was so hurt after that. Um, Yet time passed and not a word for 4 years. Great time to heal. Believe it or not, this left me some traumas. Abandonment was one of them. I can't trust a guy if he doesn't respond within 5 seconds. I have to snoop on his entire life with references before trusting anyone. If sentences are left in the air, my mind fills in the missing blanks. Overanalyzing every message sent and received to see if I missed anything. God, it was exhausting. But I'm better now. But the story is not over yet. No, here comes part 2. During the pandemic, more towards the end, I was bored out of my mind and then decided to do a master degree 1 month after the classes started. And who did I spot in the back of the class? Yup, his back. What are the odds? I decided to not say a word. Then he unblocked me because, well, we agreed to be civil. Also, I managed to make him respond to my messages faster, at least not to ghost me like he used to do. For a while, it went great, but then he started with the charm again and coming closer and closer. The first 2 attempts that he made, I managed to get away. But the third, well, screw it. I knew he was married and I didn't care. That bitch of a wife was so rude to me that I thought this one is for shutting her mouth. Anyways, by now we were doing it every other week. One day I sended him a text, and according to him, he was in the shower when I sent the message and his wife read it. The message didn't say anything out of the ordinary, but she connected the dots. Then she reached out to me, but I didn't reply. He panicked and called me to not say a word to her. And so I did. I did nothing. Let them sort it out. They are the married ones, not me. Time passed and we kept going, and me being me, after a while I let my feelings take the reins again and declare my love for him. He rejected me. Didn't felt so bad this time, but I did what I had to do, block him and move on. Months passed by and I went on 2 dates, and months later he reached out through my job email. Says he wants to catch up with me, right? And I was on a good day, so I let him talk. Then he invited me to go to a hotel and spend the night together. I had nothing better to do, so I went. Instead, what I find out is a man completely defeated, skinny and sad. He was distant and weak. The night didn't go as I was planning. Instead of a good time, we talked for ages. I cried a lot too. He is now separated from his wife and says he gave up on love and doesn't want any of it anymore. He made me feel that I ruined his family. He truly loved that woman. He chose her. Everything was good to him until I showed up in the picture. I honestly don't know, and I truly liked someone to explain to me what makes him love her, make her family material, and I do not. Yet he cannot resist in seducing me. I know a woman chooses who she dates, but a man chooses who he marries. In this case, I feel like because he didn't date me, I ruined his family, at least is the conclusion that I got from the conversation. It's just happened. I try to end this so many times, but he always comes back. This whole story started bad and is getting worse. This is a cycle. They say, if you don't love him, let him go. But if you do love him, let him go too. I did that. It didn't work. I don't know what to do next. On one hand, I have this man who got what he deserved. He fucked around and he found out. On the other, I have this man who is incredibly sad and regretful, looking to reconnect, even though we've been through so much together. He is alone, suffering, and I like him way too much to see him like that. I can't make him love me. I can't put them back together. All I can do is let time pass, be supportive when he wants me to be, and not impose me in his life. But I also want some respect for myself. It is not fair to ask that from me. At least I feel like it.